Welcome to the Now. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm Mica Burton.
Do you like playing big budget AAA games like Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto 5? Like really, think big in scope.
Yeah.
Do you still play games on a console?
Yeah.
Well, some people say those days are coming to an end, so enjoy it while you can.
Oh. Well, it's not so secret that we're living in a transitional time when it comes to games. As console hardware keeps advancing, the games are getting bigger and more expensive to make. And some developers are questioning if that business model will be viable long term, considering that not all of these games will make their money back.
In fact, a lot of games don't make their money back.
Nope.
Some in the industry are saying that game development as a whole is getting more and more untenable, and that big studios need to make room for smaller, so-called AA games. Like Rocket League would be considered a AA game.
Yeah.
It was made with a small team, it's not super crazy, it's limited in scope, still really great, but isn't trying to do everything.
The issue came up recently at the developers conference Reboot Develop in Croatia over the weekend. GameIndustries.biz reported that the subject was brought up by Gears of War creator Cliff Bleszinski, who said the AAA model of development is becoming nearly unsustainable.
For one, he said that AAA games are starting to resemble chain restaurants, so it's a nice Red Lobster over there. And that there's a category of 8 games that are getting repeated over and over again. As examples of this, he showed a slide of franchises like Uncharted and Call of Duty. In fairness though, could also add Gears of War to that list. Just saying, there have been 4 of them.
Bleszinski said that while those are great games, they also cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make and market. That makes new AAA games, especially new IPs, a big risk for studios.
Bleszinski, who is currently working on a new game called Lawbreakers, said that many consumers are too scared to take the plunge with new IPs, which is why you see so many of the same franchises cranked out year after year after year. They're familiar.
Right.
It's like they may not be fancy anymore, you're gonna wanna go online and complain, but you're probably gonna drop your money on them anyway because you know what you're getting.
He said $60 is still a lot of money to ask people for, and to ask them to make that bet multiple times per year. Gamers are picky, they're smart. This is a nearly unsustainable model unless you're an Activision, 2K, or a Sony.
Bleszinski said that the solution for developers to aim just a little bit lower price-wise for what he called AA games. He called those games that look and play great but pick their battles in terms of budget and marketing. Some good examples of this he pointed out: Rocket League, which we mentioned earlier, Warframe, Rust.
Yeah. Bleszinski's comments highlight the tough spot that many developers find themselves in. For a lot of studios, the choice nowadays is either make indie games or be one of the multitude of studios that collaborates on a AAA project. That was the choice given to the developer Ninja Theory after its co-op action game Razor was cancelled just a few years ago. But creative director Tamim Antoniadis said that his studio decided to go another way: self-publishing. That's what they're doing for their upcoming action game Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice that's coming this year for the PC and the PlayStation 4.
In an interview with Game Informer, Antoniadis said that they didn't want any creative constraints that might have come with the publisher. For instance, their new game's hero struggles with schizophrenia and a mental illness, something a publisher might have had issues with because they'd worry that that hurts the sales appeal. But that creative freedom comes with a price, like having to work in a more limited budget.
Of course, this is an issue with game development for years. Star Wars: The Old Republic is said to have cost between $150 million and $200 million, and that was back in 2011.
It's so much money.
So much money. Meanwhile, Grand Theft Auto 5 reportedly cost 265 million buckaroos. And of course, GTA 5 was a hit and made about 800 million on its first day, but say it hadn't been, that would have been a huge hit for a studio to take.
I mean, one unsuccessful game can shut a lot of publishers down.
Oh yeah! Horizon Zero Dawn, which was a very well-received new IP from Guerrilla Games, cost about $47 million to make. But that was a bargain.
As costs go up, games need to sell more and more copies to be profitable. I mean, look, remember when Tomb Raider reboot in 2013? It sold 3.4 million copies its first month, which is fantastic by any measurement, unless you're Square Enix, because they said it was a disappointment. And Call of Duty Infinite Warfare has been the best-selling game over the last 12 months, but Activision said the game didn't get enough traction with its audience, and they promptly moved the series back to the familiar grounds of World War II.
And earlier this year, Final Fantasy XV director Hajime Tabata said the game needed to sell 10 million copies to be a success.
That's a lot of copies.
That's a lot of copies. He later clarified that comment, saying that 10 million was the studio's personal goal, not necessarily how many units it needed to move to turn a profit, but still,
Still a lot of copies.
Still a lot of copies.
And the problem with development costs is only going to get worse as consoles become more and more powerful. They can do a lot more things, and therefore gamers demand a lot more things, and all those things take more people to develop. I mean, just look at upcoming Project Scorpio. One developer said recently it has so much memory that now there's no real technical limit on what its games can do, which means that budgets will only get bigger, at least for those AAA games.
Because of the super high cost of making games, Blazinski said that developers only have one shot to make a new IP. In this case, he was talking about Raven Software and their 2010 game Singularity. Blazinski called it a great game, but he added, it ultimately didn't do well because of the marketing, even though the ratings were great. And now they're one of the multi-headed hydras behind the Call of Duty series.
But it's not just gaming budgets that are changing. Some say the concept of console generations altogether is coming to an end, and we'll just instead see companies releasing increasingly beefier systems, kind of like what PlayStation 4 did with PlayStation 4 Pro, what Microsoft is doing with Xbox One, and then Project Scorpio.
Michael Pachter, everyone's favorite analyst,
The Pack Attack,
even said recently that consoles themselves could be going away in the future, with people more and more downloading games on PC and streaming them to their TV, which is, already happening.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know that I'd call doom and gloom quite yet.
No, but it's happening. But Pachter seems to think it will cause consoles themselves to go away, so bye!
Then again, though, Pachter's got kind of a spotty history of making some brash predictions that turn out to be wrong, so that should be taken with lots and lots of grains of salt for now. Make it as salty as you can.
Like a salt lick.
Delicious. One thing's for sure, though, games are becoming more and more expensive, and more than ever, gaming is a hit-driven business. If your game is a huge success like Grand Theft Auto, there's a ton of money to be made. So much money. It makes, millions of dollars a month.
It's ridiculous.
Just because. But for a lot of other studios, the high development costs can mean one strike and you're out.
That's not how baseball works.
Or you just have to have 4 people developing your game in someone's apartment for a couple of years and hope that people like it.
So,
it's tough.
What do you guys think of how much it costs to make games nowadays? Do you think the quality has improved too? Let us know in the comments.
And for all your gaming industry news, including how many bazillions it costs to make the latest Call of Duty, because it was a lot of them.
5 bazillions.
Make sure you like this video and subscribe to The Know. Category of 8 games that are getting repeated over and over and over. He only said over and over twice.
Gamers are picky. Publishing. That's what they're doing for their upcoming That's what they're doing for their upcoming action game, Hellblade:
Senua's
Sacrifice.